Hey everyone, my name is Sean Cecil from the Oculus Institute, and today is our third video in the DISC assessment where we're going to be covering the S. S is about structure, steadiness, stability, strategy, sustainability, and systems. So it's associated with the alchemical element of water, and on a neurotransmitter level, it's correlated with higher levels of oxytocin and vasopressin. Now, it's actually a very people-focused modality. It's a low-energy, people-focused modality. But the way the S is engaged, there's a lot of external process-focused stuff. And so for many people, it can be kind of hard to reconcile what's really going on there. But the truth is, the way that you want to look at the high S is that they like change as long as it's gradual, controlled, and not disruptive. And the reason why that's important to them is because disruptive change affects their close social relationships. So the top priority for the high S is a small group of people that they're very close to. Normally their family and some very close friends. Anything that's disruptive, they're immediately gonna think, how is that going to affect those people? Right? And so they don't like major disruptions. And so what you're gonna see is, for example, they'll bottle up their emotions so that, that way they don't get to a position where they're disrupting other people. But unfortunately, you can't repress emotions forever. And so every 2 or 3 months, they'll have a meltdown or a breakdown, and then they'll feel horrible about it because they were disruptive, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Likewise, when it comes to achieving goals, they want to make sure that it's sustainable. So a mentor of mine once used to say that an S is a closet D. They want the outcome just as much, but they don't want it to fall apart. So they have a very specific process in how they go about things so as not to cause disruption and to make sure that everything is sustainable. Because the worst thing for them would be to go get this thing, everybody's, then starts making decisions based on that, and then it falls apart, and then they have to go tell their wife that this thing fell apart. They don't want to do that, right? So they have a very specific process of how they go about things. When it comes to high S's, because they're very close to the circle, and because any disruptions within this circle hit them deep, oxytocin and vasopressin are bonding hormones, right? Because of that, it takes them a long time to trust people. But then once they trust you, right, they really trust you. They're all in. You're in that circle. But if you ever break that trust, you're done, right? They will never forgive you, right? So because you brought disruption into their close social circle. So there's a very tribal element to it, which obviously has value in certain situations. The animating energy of the high S is loyalty. They'll be very loyal to people. They'll be very loyal to companies. The weakness can come in that sometimes they'll be loyal to a person or a company past when that person no longer deserves their loyalty, right? Because they built this bond, and the breaking of that creates a lot of grief. So, that's something that high S's, you'll find them staying in relationships they shouldn't be in. You'll find them staying in jobs that they should have quit a long time ago. Those are the weaknesses. The superpowers are that they're very good at thinking through the processes and the angles, putting together plans, putting together strategies, right? If you want somebody strategizing out how they're going to achieve some goal, to take the vision of the high D or the high I that everybody's so optimistic and energized about and say, how do we get from where we are to where we want to be? They're great at it. If you want somebody who really is going to be there to care for somebody in need, high S is where it's at, right? Those are the people, if you think of the nurturing mother figure who's comforting a child, right? That's very much like a high S kind of thing. So what kind of careers make sense for a high S? Operations stuff is great, right? So, and there are a couple ways that this can go. One is if you're managing something, that the operations exist and you're there just to make sure everything's good, fine tune some stuff, efficiency, that's great. If you have something where they're putting in new systems and processes, so they're not doing a long-term, they're not doing a short-term charge towards a goal, but they're saying, hey, listen, what are the systems and processes that we're gonna have over the next several years to come? That's another great one. And then project management, right? Because the thing about project management is even though you're charging towards a goal, a good project requires a lot of very, high degree of planning kind of thing. And a high S is the kind of person who will geek out on the Gantt charts and the timelines and the critical path and all this kind of stuff and put together something that, that works. Where do you want high S's to, if you're a high S, where do you not want to be? You don't want to be in a place with a lot of disruption. You don't want to be in a place where things swing wildly. Financial traders, it can work, right? If you have, algorithms that you trust and you allocate a small percent and all this kind of stuff. But if you see kind of the high-end, screaming on the New York Stock Exchange kind of thing that people talk about, or like hedge fund managers with these big swings, like that kind of stuff very much disturbs high S's. Right? So like I've seen financial traders who are high S's, they allocate no more than 2% of their portfolio to any given trade. And they have all these different things where there's, almost no way that they can lose and blah, 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 blah. And they very thorough and very detailed about it because they want to make sure that plan is solid and not disruptive, right? Whereas somebody who's like, hey, listen, I think that Apple's going to skyrocket, right? The high S would never do that because this is too much, there's not enough security. And that's another thing that high S is. If you're high S, you don't want to be in something that doesn't have job security. If you're in a situation where, maybe that job may not be around in 2 years, or you're gonna have to change and do something else, or, any of that kind of stuff, that's very problematic for a high S. They don't like to be changing jobs every couple of years. That bothers them, right? They wanna find some place where they can stick and be loyal. Right, so now if you're a low S, right, and none of this really matters to you, right, then you're really looking at more of the high D stuff, right? Like, great, if I can get paid extra for being in something that's really volatile, cool, like I'm down for that, right? If you're dealing with something that's, very task focused, right, that is not thinking about the people involved, right? That's another one that high S's can be good at, is like recruiting and HR, right? Because it's both process and people focused. That's a great one for them, right? Whereas, a low S, you're gonna be looking more at like the high D side of things. So that's S. And then finally, this is the third video. We're gonna be going to the fourth video in our series, the fourth and final, which is the C. And I will see you for that next week. Hey everyone, I hope you enjoyed this video. If there's something that resonated with you, maybe a new connection that you made or some information that shifted your perspective, if you found value here, then I wanna give you one last gift. So I've put together a free diagnostic that I call a checkup with the career doctor. Short list of questions, and as you answer them, it's gonna give you a readout of where you stand on the important metrics of career fulfillment, right? How happy are you with your job and how good a fit is it, right? Financial success, which we all know, and then internal alignment, which is your level of inner peace and the inner resources that you have to bring to creating the life that you want. Additionally, it's also gonna show you which areas you can improve on to get those metrics moving in the right direction, as well as how can we at the Oculus Institute help you make progress. So it's totally free, 100%. All you have to do is just go to www.oculusinstitute.com/purpose quiz, right? No spaces, no dashes, just oculusinstitute.com. That's OCULUSINSTITUTE.com/purpose quiz. And you can take it totally for free. You'll get a free report sent to you, and then at the end, it will give you some next steps of what you can do to reach out so that we can help you create the career of your